Not Quite Right features discussions that are unfiltered and uncensored and may include themes that are inappropriate for younger listeners. Also, I swear a lot.
Something doesn't seem quite right. Welcome to Not Quite Right. My name's Ed.
And I'm Amanda.
Amanda, do you know when our last regular episode was?
No, I don't even remember what I was doing yesterday. When was our last regular episode?
17th of October.
Oh my God.
Last year. And that was our 100th episode celebration episode.
Yeah, we just celebrate and then just went, I'm out.
And then exactly.
I'm good.
But we've released a bunch of episodes since then. Let's be real. It's not because we have been slacking off. We've been slacking on, if anything.
What does that look like exactly? No, but you're right. You've just coined a phrase there.
And we're recording this now in April. Don't know when it's going to come out. Probably after Words on the Waves, let's be real. And I think it'll be like 150 episodes by the time this actually comes out. That's my feeling. It's a bit like, you know, when you go into confession, they say, how long has it been since your last confession? It's a bit like that.
Maybe. It's been a while since I've done a confession.
When was your last confession?
Actually, I tell you what, it wasn't that long ago because I had to do one when my daughter did her reconciliation.
Right.
And they got the parents in.
What juicy confessions did you?
Here's a funnier story because I don't remember, but I do remember doing confession before I got married because we were doing a mass, which I regret, and I'm so sorry I put you through that. I'm sorry to all
I don't even remember
wedding
it,
guests.
I had enough masses in my childhood that I learnt the skill of dissociating.
It's a nice rest for your brain. But anyway, shouldn't have done it. The priest talked us into a full mass. I'm like, right, whatever. Anyway, then he wanted us to do confession before we got married. I'm like, okay, fine. And I went in to do the confession. This is me. I haven't done one since I was in primary school. And you go in there and you're like, I've been mean to my brother and, you know, I was rude to my parents, and that's pretty much my confession. So I go in there as like a fully adult woman, just kind of like, I guess I've been like not my ideal self. I'm not really sure what to tell you. And he was trying to hint at something. I'm like, what are you getting at? And this poor priest awkwardly had to kind of prompt me to
remind you what the sins were.
He had to remind me that I had been living with my soon-to-be husband for quite some time. And he's like, so was there anything going on in those years that you lived together that maybe you need to like talk about now? And I'm like, oh, yeah, that put me down for one of those. And I got absolved.
I'm imagining this scenario, but while he's hinting, you're like revealing all these other random sins. You're like, oh, is this the Ian Thorpe thing?
Or is it the shoplifting thing? Is it that? Because I'm really sorry about that. No, he was like, you know what, Ian Thorpe, that's fine.
Yeah, he's like, haven't we all?
Anyway, I've sinned, but the thing is, I'm forgiven, so it's fine.
Yeah, so it doesn't really matter what you do.
No, it's fine.
You just admit it, and that's cool.
Yeah, you got to make sure you do it before you die.
But don't you, apologies for opening this episode with Catholic theology, but
we are not leaving this in.
Don't you just have to say it? Like, don't you have to apologise to God? Does the priest need to be there?
I think the priest needs to be there. That's why they do last rites before you die. Yeah. And you get absolved and then you get to go to heaven.
I guess it depends which religion you are, because if you're like Protestant, you can just say it in your head.
Oh, okay. I should become a Protestant.
That was why it took off.
Like, yeah, right. Yeah. Everyone's just like, that's way more convenient.
That seems better.
It's like how, tap and go takes off because it's really convenient. Yeah. It's like, I can just pray and go. Just be like, heaps sorry about that thing I just did. Really sorry. You cool? We're cool. Okay, awesome. Now I can die.
Did you feel better after you confessed your sins to the priest?
I felt humiliated. Yeah. I was like, the priest had to remind me it was a sin to have sex before marriage. I'm like, I forgot that was a thing. Wasn't something I dwelt on.
Yeah, it's not something they really talk about in religion, is it? At all? It's easy to forget.
I wouldn't know. I hadn't really engaged with religion in quite some time. Yeah. Anyway.
All right, all that aside, let's get into the episode, shall we? So
now I'm sorry, but I'm just confessing my sins here now.
Go for it.
No, I'm not now.
Confess some sins, and we'll keep the juiciest ones for our Patreon, which we'll talk about later. But no, go for it. Confess them now.
Are you going to confess some, or is it just me?
Definitely not.
Oh, well, then I'm not doing it.
Okay, maybe. Depends how bad your sins are. I'll try to confess one on the same level.
Okay, so shoplifting, right? I shoplifted once when I was like 10. I stole literally a pipe cleaner from a Spotlight store. So a crafty pipe cleaner. It was like a pink one. It was like fluffy. And I put it in my pocket and I took it home. And the guilt overpowered me. And years later, I still felt guilt. And I never used this pipe cleaner for anything because I was just like, oh my God, it's a guilt. And then like years later, I took a 10-cent piece, which was the value of the pipe cleaner, probably double value of the pipe cleaner. And I like left it on the floor in a Spotlight store to like pay back. Now your turn.
Okay, I'll confess some shoplifting then.
Okay.
When I was like 9 or 10, we used to go to the shops. No, I still want things at the shops that I couldn't have. And then at some point I was like, hang on a minute, I could just take this thing and put it in my pocket. And like, who would suspect a child?
Literally everyone who works there.
And and so I stole some random stuff. And look, here's what I stole. I stole some padlocks from Coles because I was like, they're interesting. And then
you were coveting the padlocks big time.
And I think I stole some toys as well, like just some like action figurines or something. And I thought I was pretty smart. And then my mum busted me and she was like, you can't do that, and explained to me
how society works.
Yeah, I had a whole thing that like I just steal it and then later on I would pretend I found it. And then she was like,
flawless plan.
How do you always keep finding these things after we just go to the shops? And then I was like, I may have pushed this a little bit too far. So yeah.
So some padlocks are on your conscience.
Yeah.
Have you offered that up in prayer?
No, look, do you think that God's role is like, do you realize you're stealing value from the shareholders when you do that? Do you think that's God is like, that's his job? Do you think that Jesus would have been all about that, right? You know, read the Bible and see what Jesus was like when he was on earth. And do you think he's going to be like, oh, you probably should have paid for that because...
I mean, I think the rules were pretty clear. So I don't know. Thou shalt not steal is pretty straightforward when you think about it.
Jesus said that he was there to create a new covenant and not to follow the old rules. It's the big book of multiple choice. So pick and choose your own rules.
Yeah, I think that's how religion works. Yeah, that's pretty much how the Bible works.
Of course it is.
100%.
That's why there are so many denominations, right? Anyway, that's all potentially on the cutting room floor. So look, we're finally at the Poe episode. We've been talking about this for the last 6+ months.
You've been avoiding it.
Well, we've been doing a lot of reading.
We've been doing
So this has been at the bottom of my reading list, but I've been hitting it pretty hard after Flesh Fiction. So Poevert, your time has come, finally. We'll be talking all about Poe. We'll be talking about Single Effect. We'll be talking about some of his non-fiction, some of his fiction. We may even be reading a story or two. I think we should. Extract or two.
I feel like we should. They lend themselves to the audio format, I feel.
So that's really going to be what this episode is about. But before that, we've got a lot of catching up to do because it's been a long time, a lot of announcements. So we'll hit you with all of that first and then we'll get into Poe.
Sounds good.
So the first major announcement is Patreon, which we've been talking about for ages. In fact, we've been working on it in the background for ages, recording some episodes.
Yes.
Some episodes of our new podcast called The Niche, exclusive to Patreon supporters.
Silly nonsense, you might say.
Silly nonsense, all the stuff that is too hot for radio, perhaps, or maybe too niche for a podcast about writing. We talk about all sorts of other stuff.
Yeah.
A bit of a lighter touch in the editing, and we let a few things slip that perhaps we shouldn't.
Which, of course, we never do normally.
In fact, we have released for a limited time, if you recall, the first episode of The Niche called vajankles.mp3. So that's a bit of a taste for you. But Patreon is finally live. We will have the link in the show notes, links on our website, everywhere. If you want to sign up, we would love to have you. There's all sorts of perks. And,
it's not just the extra content, which hopefully is enjoyable to those of you who like our silly nonsense, but also there's discounts, there's early release content, there's all sorts of stuff. So if you're interested at all, just go and click the link, check it out and see if that's something that you'd like to get on board with. And the big thing here is, I guess, that it's supporting us. It's supporting us to continue doing what we do. So if you enjoy what we do, and you would like to support that to continue, then that's the way to do it, basically.
That's it. You hit us with a couple of dollars and we will give you a warm, fuzzy feeling in return. That's our promise to you.
That's your promise. All right. Sounds good.
So as part of our Patreon launch, we are also giving away a lucky door prize to one lucky person who signs up within the first 2 weeks. And we will obviously send an email out to everyone so you are aware of what that time period is. But it is the contents of our innuendo jar, which is brimming with cash at this point. It's quite overflowing.
Oh, that's a bit of an exaggeration. I think it should be more overflowing than it is, to be honest. But certainly hundreds of dollars, hundreds of rude jokes that will be transferred into cash form for one lucky winner. And we look forward to sharing the love on that one. I have enjoyed the innuendo jar, the gentle tinkle of a completely inappropriate joke. It's like a Pavlovian response I have now. And I will be sad to say goodbye to the innuendo jar, but very, very happy to share that with one winner.
But if you don't want to join Patreon for whatever reason and you do still want to support us, there is one thing you can do that's free, and that is to jump onto your podcast platform of choice and leave us a 5-star review, like a positive review. We love to get it. It helps get the podcast out there. It helps us be seen. You know, tell your friends, tell your enemies if you like, all that kind of thing.
Well, you know what? I just want to say something about that because I listen to a lot of podcasts and they're always saying that, like, just, you know, hit follow, like, subscribe, whatever, and that helps us get seen. And you're kind of like, okay, what does that actually mean? Just for a second, I just want to give a shout out of appreciation to all of those people who like our social media posts, who reshare our social media posts, who take the 20 seconds to comment on our social media posts and or go on and leave a review of the podcast, follow the podcast. All of those things, they're free to do, but they have a legitimate impact. Like one of the impacts is that if you're liking and following and commenting on social media, one impact is that you're going to see that more on your own feed. So that's your choice. If you want to see us on your feed, great. Okay. And that's one thing that will happen. But also what it does is it tells the algorithm that that's something that people like. And so it shares it then more with your friends and with other people who are kind of in our peripheral network. And that's really beneficial to us. It helps us get in front of more eyeballs and it's totally free to do. And so I guess I just want to say thank you to the people who are doing that already. Yeah. I don't think you know that that has an impact, but it really does. Every time you just hit like, literally just hit like on something that we post, you are doing us a big favor and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, and we do see it. And we also do see when people recommend the Not Quite Right prize to their friends as well, because we see it in people's general feedback. Hey, I heard about this comp from another person who does the comp, and that's amazing to hear. So thank you to everyone who has already done that.
Absolutely. We want to connect with the people all around the world, and we know they exist, who are a little bit not quite right, like we are, and just build our little community. So once again, thank you. And yeah, for those of you who can't get enough, then Patreon is the answer. And if you like what we do, then I guarantee you're going to enjoy the additional nonsense that we post there.
So that's about it for our announcements for now. But it's been, 6-9 months, however long it's been since we've last recorded a regular episode. And you've been busy.
I have, yeah. Unlike me, very unlike me to be busy. I've been traveling. So I went to Japan with my family, which was wonderful. And I think I mentioned on a previous episode, but I met Ben Daggers in real life, which was lovely. Like I really love to meet my internet friends in real life. Sumitra Singham as well, another writer who I've gotten to know online, who I hung out with at the beach in Sydney. It gives me life to meet these other flash fiction writers. I don't know, I feel so privileged to be able to do that and to meet people who have become my friends and who I talk to all the time online.
Yeah, it kind of makes it real. Like it's one thing to have a relationship online with people and another thing to see them in the flesh and go, oh shit, that's an actual person that exists and has their own life.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my daughters were very they questioned me on it. They're like, I thought we weren't supposed to talk to people online.
Yeah.
And now you're agreeing to meet up with these people in real life. I'm like, yes, do as I say, not as I do. Of course, there's this whole community of writers all over the world and we can all connect online, which is really, really fun. Oh, and Sally Simon as well, who I hung out with in Sydney. We spent the day in Sydney together. I just love it so much and I look forward to opportunities to meeting other writers as well. So if anyone is out Sydney way, let us know.
All right. And so you've been writing as well. You've been, listen, this is the thing about you. You're like, I'm not writing any flash fiction this year. I'm taking a break. I've got other things to do. And then you're like, I'm in Twister Tournament this month.
First of all, That was last year.
Yeah, but like...
No, that was all of last year.
But didn't you go into comps last year? As well?
A little bit.
Yeah, you did.
No, shut up.
So you have a habit of biting off way more than you can chew.
Okay.
And then once like it's in your mouth, you're like, whoa, I've got too much in my mouth.
And then I do like to talk with my mouth full, as you know. Yeah. No, you're right.
But you did okay. So tell us about Twisted Tournament.
No, so I've signed up for the year.
Oh,
so,
really? How many comps?
3 or 4.
Wow.
I don't actually know.
Move.
Because I just really ran with it. But Twisted Tournament has like 3 stories per round as well. So it's a bit like New York City Midnight, I guess, in that way. So different lengths and different amounts of time to get them done. And it's my first time. And I had been wanting to enter Twisted Tournament for a while and just didn't feel like I had capacity. So I was like, listen, now's the time. I'm signing up and it'll be what it is kind of thing. And I guess what I've learned from this experience is that I am burnt out and it's a lot. Yeah. It's a lot to try and write so much in like a week, basically. Yeah. And I have been finding that challenging. So it's just been the one round of 3 so far. So it was 3 stories, a 500-word story, a 250 and a 100, all in the space of a week. And fortunately, that week was pretty clear for me. So I gave it a go, but, I wasn't feeling good about it. It's been a while. It's like cobweb situation. So I did struggle with that. And to be honest, I don't have a lot of experience writing like a 100 anyway. But yeah, it was good. It was good. I enjoyed it. Feedback's interesting. It's like a whole different vibe with Twisted Tournament. Very positive. Everyone's just there to have fun, which I love. And yeah, there's a lot of sort of emphasis on feedback, which unfortunately I think I found difficult because I didn't have time to kind of interact with the feedback properly. It was a lot to me and I dipped in and I made some comments and then I'm like, this is overwhelming. Like I don't have time to read and comment meaningfully on all these stories. So that's something I found challenging as well, but overall very enjoyable, a lot of positivity.
It's tricky because we are both very busy obviously on the comp and on the podcast and all the things we do. But I also want to do some more writing.
Yeah.
Like I do want to enter more comps and I'm thinking for myself it's something I will do next year because this year we do have still all the things that we want to work on and I do want to prioritize that this year. So I think next year for me. But I just reflecting on maybe the relationship between feeling creative and how much time and mental bandwidth you have. Because like you can never have a perfect situation with writing and you never really feel like, or rarely, let's say, does the weekend of the competition align with how you're feeling that weekend, how much time you have, how much sleep you've had, like whether or not your calendar is clear. And sometimes it's an effort and sometimes it's easier and sometimes your best work comes when you're under stress and you actually feel more energized in a way. You feel more like you need that release or that creative activity to take you out of where you are currently. So like sometimes it's hard to say whether just because you are tired and drained, like that is necessarily a bad thing for writing. Like sometimes it can be good. And
yeah, it's a lot. I think everyone's in the same boat. You've got a lot of pressures and at our age, you've got a lot of pressures, whether that be work or children or other family commitments or just the day-to-day, which is usually overcommitted anyway. So you're dealing with that. And like you say, it's not just the time to be creative. For me, there's a huge aspect of it that's like the emotional energy to be creative and to like have that confidence in myself to put myself out there, which is also its own special challenge. Yeah. So I can put words on a page, but do I feel good about it? Do I have the energy to like believe in that story and see it through to completion and edit it properly and submit? Yeah. And I'm the kind of person who responds well to like a deadline and to the pressure of like, I paid for this competition, so I'm going to enter. And so that's usually enough for me to at least submit whatever piece of shit like I've come up with at the time and to give it a go. But that's very different to feeling good and feeling like I really like this story or I'm passionate about it or it said something that I really wanted to say. It's usually for me in recent times more a case of like I just like wheezed over the line and just submitted what I had, knowing its problems usually. And accepting that and just being like, well, I'd rather just still have a go, and not like I hate DNRs, fuck. I hate DNFs, DNR. That's just telling of my mental stuff. Do not resuscitate.
Oh, my God.
That's the stories I do submit are the DNRs, and the DNFs are the ones I don't submit.
No, because usually what you do is you send me a
piece
message.
Of shit.
No, you send me a message the day before or the morning of the deadline and be like, I didn't write anything. It's a DNF. And then you'll send me one right before the deadline and be like, I wrote something. That's how it functions. But like, well done getting it over the line. And yeah, it's never going to be perfect if you're under that pump. So I guess you've got to make that decision for yourself. Is that something you want to do? It would be better to have a bit more time to play with. I mean, for me, I find you're much better than me at writing with distractions. Like, from what I understand, you can do a bit of writing, do something else, come back to the writing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't result in like a good outcome, but yeah.
For me, I feel like I have to be immersed for like a good 4 or 5 hours in something and just kind of sit in it and have that be part of me to get it all out, and then I can kind of move on. I can't like dip in and out. I struggle with that, but it's a me problem.
I mean, that's just how you like to do it as well. Like, that's fine. But, you know, I guess I would like to say to the people who enter our competition as well, like, we know it's just a weekend.
Yeah.
And you got shit on a lot of the time. And like, I'm not expecting people to just like come to us with like this piece of perfection that has just been born of, you know, the angels singing and the muse coming down. Like, it's just a piece of writing. You had a crack. You might have had a good idea that just flowed, or you might have had a shit idea that you've workshopped into oblivion. Like, whatever it is, having a go. And we say this all the time, but like, actually submitting something is already a win. I really do think that. I feel that for myself, that just that relief of like, I did it. Even though I'm not super proud of what I submitted, I'm so glad I submitted something. And you just never know. Like, you can't be objective about your own writing. Often it's the stuff that we hate that resonates with someone else, or, you know, we love something so much and everyone's just like, you just can't know how
I'll tell you what, well, actually, before we started recording, we were reflecting on like what makes a winning piece in flash fiction. And I know that whenever we have awarded someone the win for a competition, it's always been a surprise for them. Like, no one has gone, oh yeah, I expected that. And you know, you've won Furious Fiction, and it was a surprise for you as well.
It still is. I'm like, that was not that good.
But that's the thing. It's hard to be objective, and sometimes you think you haven't done a good job, or like it hasn't hit exactly where you wanted it to go, but it's hit a place in the judge's mind or someone else's mind that maybe you didn't expect, or you just never know.
Yeah, and so I hope people do. You know, I hate DNFs. They make me very sad. You just never know what's going to come out. Pressure produces diamonds sometimes. A lot of shit. There's a lot of shit. That's okay. Give us your shit. It's fine. You won't get any judgment. I mean, you'll get actual literal judgment, but
it's not a competition.
It's not a competition. We don't judge you. No.
But yeah, it's a process, and you're not going to win every time, but like the more you do it, the better you get.
And just coming back to like real life writing friends, the more friends you make in the writing space, and if you're doing flash fiction competitions, the more friends you make in flash fiction competition space, the more wins you get, because quite literally, like, I take every win of my friends as my own win.
Yeah, true.
If someone else's name is on a long list or a short list or a win, I'm like, yes, I won.
And it's been great seeing some of our former winners and shortlisters and longlisters turning up on other lists.
Well, not even, like, they might not even make our long list and they find their home somewhere else, and that's always very exciting as well. Yeah, like now I've got this whole community of everyone who enters our comp. Like, when they win something,
sorry. I just need some wine. Okay.
Everyone who enters our comp, whenever they get published somewhere or do well in another competition, or even just post to their own blogs, it's just like, oh, I achieved something today.
Yeah, absolutely. Living vicariously, I think.
100%. I love it so much.
All right, so let's move on. Before we get into Poe, we have one voicemail from a listener, and that's from Lilith Fawkins, and she's coming at us with a hot take. Ooh. So let's listen to that now.
Hi, Ed and Amanda. I'm Lilith Fawkins from Florida in the USA, and my hot take is that rating books with 1 to 5 stars is functionally useless. Stars have become inflated, so an average 3 out of 5 is seen as bad instead of, average, like a middle-of-the-road book. It could be like Rotten Tomatoes, where serious reviews from critics are there for those who are looking for more intellectual, artistic engagement, and then general populace for pure entertainment value.
So thank you for your message, Lilith, and thank you for being so patient. I know we've been sitting on this for a while, waiting for our next regular episode to come up, so can't wait to talk about it. I've got a lot to say.
I bet you do. Well, I was just going to say I'm going to defer to you on this one because you are the resident book reviewer. You've got your following on Goodreads. You've got your hordes who listen to what you think. So I'm going to listen to what you think right now.
Well, listen, I haven't posted much on Goodreads since we started the podcast, coincidentally, for various reasons, one of them being I don't have time to read anything except for competition entries. But yeah, I've got thoughts on this because I feel like Lilith that the rating system that we have is pretty much useless and unless we're all on the same page. So the star system on Goodreads, this is like if you hover over the stars, it will tell you what the stars mean. 1 star is I didn't like it. Okay. If you didn't like something, that's the only option that you have. Like it's 1 star. I didn't like it, 1 star. It's pretty straightforward. 2 stars is it was okay.
Okay.
So for me, a 2-star book is a book that all right, it had some redeeming features, but it didn't knock me away.
You,
I wouldn't recommend it.
Didn't knock you away.
Did I say that?
I think so.
It didn't beat me off. It didn't.
2 stars.
Yeah, that's right. Give you every book 2 stars.
Like you have to beat Ed off to get 3 stars is a bare minimum. And then from there, well.
I'll give you 5. Anyway, so 3 stars is I liked it. Which for me, a book that is good, that I liked, that I enjoy is 3 stars.
Yeah.
4 stars, I really liked it. And 5 stars, it was amazing.
Okay.
So most books, if like you're a person who reads books that are mostly good, and I tend to kind of curate the books I intend to read.
You're not going to waste your time on an...
Yeah, I'm not the kind of person who'll just pick up a random book that I've never heard of. So I've got some assurance that at least some people like the book that I'm going to read, generally speaking. So if I liked it, if I thought it's a strong book, 3 stars, great, well done. If it was really good, it had something exceptional, 4 stars. If it was an absolute favourite, knocked me away, 5 stars, all right? But the books that get 5 stars are going to be fewer and further between than the ones that get 3 stars because 5 stars is the highest level, the best thing ever. But
so 5 stars is it blew you away. But what if it just blew you?
6 stars.
Oh.
Wow. You almost blew that microphone.
Why not at this point?
So yeah, I agree with Lilith that the star system has become 5 stars is just your default.
Yeah.
And I think this came...
And anything less is almost cruel to the author.
Yeah, and this has come from, I think, the way that we review products and services. If you get in an Uber and you don't give them 5 stars, even if it was just a satisfactory Uber, it's a problem, and people are judged on the metrics. I know for companies like Uber or anywhere you leave a review or a star rating, if it's less than 5 stars, that means there's a problem. And that means average ratings for services tend to be 4.9 stars. And if you're a customer service person and people rate you and your average is 4.5, that means you're shit.
Yeah.
So I think that maybe that approach has skewed things.
Do you think it's a capitalism thing? It's very much about getting sales and it's not about meaningfully connecting with people because if you, it's okay if people just like your book, especially if they're not really your demographic. It depends what you're trying to write and who you're trying to connect with. But when I write stuff, I'm mostly trying to amuse myself and my friends, and I wouldn't expect everyone to just fawn all over what I write.
Yeah.
Look,
totally. But I will also say we're part of the problem here because we've just asked people for 5-star reviews. And
no, I don't need 5 stars. Be real.
No,
but
but 5. But don't review us if you're not going to give 5 stars. Because everything is so overhyped.
Yeah.
And to the point that the reviews are meaningless. And I would
you don't review shit. I mean, if you've got a habit of reviewing books and you review every book, okay, that's its own separate thing. But as a consumer, I would only review anything if I really liked it so much and I was trying to support the people who were doing whatever it is, or I wanted to punish them for the bad service. That's why you'd leave a review, right? People must know that they're going to rip you off. I want to share that so they don't get to rip anyone else off. That's one motivation. And the other is, oh my God, I love them. They need my support. I want other people to know they're great so that they find them. And that's it. I don't review shit if it's yeah, that was fine. Why would I?
So I review on Goodreads. I also do movies on Letterboxd as well. And both of those I started for the same reason, not because I want to like
influence people.
Influence anyone. Exactly. No, it's because I've got a really bad memory. And about 3 months after I've read a book, I've forgotten what that book's about.
It's your little diary entry.
It's a diary. And that's all that's why I started it. It's so that I can go back.
But do you also enjoy connecting with people? There must be people on there whose taste that you share and...
Yeah, that's part of it, but that kind of grew out of the initial. And I'm saying that in response to your point about you wouldn't review something that you didn't love. But I would review something that I didn't love and say, well, this is what I felt about it. The difference I feel between who I review on Goodreads and like Letterboxd, I read mostly literary fiction and mostly...
wanky shit.
Yeah, but also a lot of stuff that's written by people who are no longer alive or maybe don't need my review to add to their prestige, right? And same goes for movies. Like if you review a movie positively or negative, it's not going to, like the director is not going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe you did this.
They might.
But I did once write a review for a book that was by an independent author. Like it was published, but it was an independent author. And they did message me about my review to clarify a few things. And I gave it 3 stars, which 3 stars means I liked it.
Isn't that you really liked it?
No, 3 stars is I liked it.
I liked it. Okay.
So 3 stars, according to my rating system, I liked it. And I called out things I didn't like about it. But then they messaged me and I felt bad about that because 3 stars looks bad to an independent small author. That wasn't my intention. And again, my intention was just to catalogue the things that I had read so that I could go back later and remember what I thought about them. So yeah, I think there's that tension. People who are using those platforms to promote their books, like Goodreads, like to promote their books, they expect 5 stars or as close as possible to 5 stars. Otherwise, perceived that people are not going to want to buy it because the expectation based on the way things work in the modern world is that 5 stars is the default. But also that makes a pretty useless rating system because if you're on there looking for good books to read or good movies to watch, you're not going to find out. You're just going to get a lot of 5-star reviews for mediocre work, essentially.
Yeah. But I guess reviews then are meaningless. But if you follow a particular reviewer whose taste you share and they're giving meaningful reviews about whether I liked it or really liked it or whatever it might be, and they're also elaborating on the reasons, then it starts to become more meaningful. Like you were saying, I'm not going to waste my time reading a book that no one has even recommended to me. It's just nothing and I'm taking a risk. Yeah. But if you know that the people whose opinion you trust, whether that be online reviewers or whether that be people at your book club or people in your personal network, mum, sister, friends, whatever it might be, then that is more meaningful than just this generic, whether it's 5 stars, 4 stars. Like, I'm not sure that means anything. Although having said that, I find Rotten Tomato reviews like pretty accurate. And, you know, if something's got a pretty high review on Rotten Tomatoes, I'm like, this is going to be entertaining.
Yeah, and I think going back to what you just said before, that's the trick that I learned from Goodreads and also Letterboxd as well. I do the same thing there is if I watch a movie and I love it, then I go and look at the other reviews on that movie or that book. And if I see a review that I like that kind of expresses similar thoughts that I had, then I might follow that person and say, well, what else have they read that I might also like? And then you follow a whole bunch of people and you get to know their preferences and then you use that to help guide what you want to read or watch next.
But is it a bean soup thing too? Like if you don't like something, and this is like I say this as a friend of multiple authors, whether they be traditionally published or self-published, some get more wrapped up than others in the reviews and take them personally or not. But for the ones who do, it's like, how helpful is it to leave a shitty review on something for which you were not the target demographic? Yeah. I'm not sure how helpful that is. Like in a situation like yours where you're reviewing everything and you've got followers who are following what you like because that's what they like and then that's a meaningful review. But you're almost just not giving that person a chance then. And I think that's what it feels like. It's like if you give someone a 2-star review, then they don't have a chance with anyone in your orbit who cares what you think because that's pretty bad. And it's like, well, why? Like, who does that serve? It's not – we talk about wasting time, but when is it ever really wasting time to consume art? Even if you don't like it, you're still learning what you like and don't like. You're still engaging with other human beings and thoughts and feelings in a way that – I don't know, is an experience, whether it's like, oh, wow, this was an enjoyable, thought-provoking experience, or whether it's just like, that was fine. Like, that's just life, right? And if everything is always amazing all the time, then you have no frame of reference either. So it's like probably good to consume a little bit of shit art every now and then as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Or art that you think is shit, you know?
Yeah, I think it's always worth kind of broadening your horizons and trying new things.
Yeah. Like, should we just get rid of it? Just get rid of review systems and just engage with stuff because that's what life is.
I don't know.
It's a bit much to ask.
It is a bit because we've got limited time as well, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't watch and read everything. You've got to choose, and you've got to have a way of choosing that's pretty reliable. But yeah, I think my takeaway summary of this is it's valuable depending on the size of one person's voice against other voices. So like the more reviews there are, generally, the more accurate it is. But I think with smaller works, like small books, independent movies, people should err on the side of being positive about them because they need promotion.
Yeah.
Number one.
Sorry, you're like some independent little self-published author. You don't need some other dickhead, by the way. Like you're a dickhead who's self-publishing and you've got some other dickhead who's coming in like, I'm actually an intellectual and this did not meet my standards. Like, well, fucking write your own book. You know what I mean? Just scroll on.
Yeah.
Scroll on. If you're not going to be supportive of independent people who are busting their asses just to create art in an environment where that is almost impossible to do, I don't know. I'm all for the 5-star in that context. Like just the more 5 stars something has, the more groundswell of support it has is what that's. And I think that's different, right?
That's about finding an audience and that's about visibility.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's like the latest blockbuster movie or like fully hyped book, who cares? Like give it 1 star. Tell people what it's actually like.
Yeah.
It's different.
Because it doesn't matter. Because at that point, it's reached a broad audience and it's going to have everything from 0 to 5 and
no one,
then some.
There's never the case that everyone's going to love something.
Absolutely. So. And it's not harming anyone. And I think, if you have the opportunity, like someone's given you an ARC copy of a book, like an advanced reader copy of a book to read, pretty much either just give it 5 or maybe 4 with some caveats or just don't review it. Like I just don't know that your opinion matters enough to harm someone else's chance at finding their readers. So I guess we've come full circle here because yes, we're saying these ratings are meaningless in a way, which is kind of like, well, that's a shame. But there's 2 things going on here. There's one where it's meaningful ratings of popular things and you can follow and only spend time on stuff that is valuable to you, and that's great. And then there's this other world where there's independents who are just looking for support to find their audience, and you might not be their audience.
Yeah.
But why would you get in the way of them finding the people who do like what they're putting out there? Like, why would you harm their chances of finding their niche? I don't know. It feels cruel.
Yeah, I agree. And there's no easy answer, unfortunately, because everyone's opinion is different. I'm often frustrated by the reviews I see on Letterboxd and on Goodreads for things that I enjoy. And people are just like, this is boring, this is pretentious. And
is this like some of our Get Wrecked segments?
It is a bit. It is a little bit. But like, okay, so we both recently watched Wuthering Heights, for an example. And I thought that was great, and it wasn't the book, it was something different, and I thought what it did was great. And then you go on Letterboxd and it's absolutely panned by everyone, and everyone is trying their best to come up with like their own little snarky comment that kind of gets some traction and a bunch of likes. So that's like a problem with the platform. But if you go on there and you're like, should I watch this movie? You're probably not going to get a good idea of whether it's worth watching because they're all just piling onto this kind of groupthink, and like that's a problem with reviews. Like you can't fix it.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed The Wuthering Heights, even though it was trash. Like, hello, trash is great. Fucking love trash. That is what Wuthering Heights. No, but I say that with love. I love trash. I love it so much. This is the one who loves Neighbours. And I don't just love it because it's trash. I actually see value in it. It's feeding my soul. Wuthering Heights, when it was first written, was trash, said with love. Like it's just drama. It's full on and it's all about just being shocking.
Yeah.
Great. And like, where's the problem? I don't know. You don't have to be intellectual. Some classic novels are kind of more thought-provoking and intellectual. This one is just a bunch of fun and entertainment. Yeah. And so to bring it up to a modern standard where it's still just fun and entertaining, like fucking
Look, I like when things are challenged, and I like when we get something new and something different and something surprising. And I thought that movie was all of those things. And you can like nitpick and say it wasn't this and this and this. I don't think it was trying to be that. It wasn't trying to be the book. It wasn't trying to portray things exactly how they're written. It was trying to do something else, and it did something else. And like what it did was good. And
how many stars though?
I'll have to check what I gave it. It was a 3.5 or 4 stars. I can't remember. Okay. Because, I liked it.
Well, for funsies, I mean, we do have our previous episode, Moors, where we talked about Wuthering Heights. That was my recommendation to you, the novel. We also recorded a Patreon episode all about my experience of Wuthering Heights. I was actually recommending it to you.
Yes.
Because I knew you'd love it.
Yeah. And that episode is tantalisingly titled Cadbury Cream Egg.
We're just coming out of Easter now.
Yeah. Just coming out of Easter. All right. It's Poe time, bitches. You ready for some Poe?
I wasn't, but now I am. I've been frightened into a state of all I can do is think of Poe.
That was my single effect right there.
What if I choked to death? I would die happy. I nearly choked on a lolly. It was a lolly that was the shape of lips.
Okay.
If I choked to death on that, when you were like, it's Poe, bitches.
How you'd want to go.
I would. It's very ironic. I love it.
Okay. Each episode, Amanda and I take turns recommending each other books or movies that we may not have chosen for ourselves. It's a segment we call Get Wrecked. And look, I say each episode at this point in massive quotes, each regular episode, and it's been a while.
We've been really backed up.
We've been backed up. When we say so much flesh.
When we say regular, like at this point, there's some Metamucil needing to be involved.
But for the purposes of this episode, you've recommended Poe.
So you say books, movies. This is just short stories, poems, essays, the complete works thereof.
So it's a little bit different to our normal recommendations of being a discrete work. This is kind of an author, Edgar Allan Poe, and his entire catalogue of works.
Which is a lot.
Which is a lot. So we've actually got an article up on the website called Reading Recs for Poverts, and you can find that via the menu on the website. And that's the reading list, Amanda, that you put together with some help from.
I did, yes. Some help from Chris Semptner from the Poe Museum. And I reached out to him and asked, there's a lot of Poe, so where do we start? Yeah. And he gave us some really great recommendations. And even though it's been since October last year, I still haven't read them all. There's just so much to enjoy.
We've both probably read most of them, or at least
I think between us. But, oh, my God, it opened my eyes. I've been banging on about Poe for years now, having only just scraped the surface of what his talents were, and now my eyes are open. I love him even more. So I'm really, really excited to get into some of his other stories that maybe are lesser known, probably still very well known among those who appreciate him.
So maybe let's start with a bit of background. We'll talk about Single Effect, and then we will get into the stories that we've read.
Sounds good.
So Amanda, tell us, who was Edgar Allan Poe?
Okay, well, I mean, he was a poet. He was an author of short stories mainly, and also an essayist and literary critic as well. A very interesting person. He was born in 1809 and he only lived to 1849, so just the tender age of 40. And he was, of course, American. He's most well known for his Gothic horror and his exploration of the macabre, but also having delved a little bit into his other writings, to me, sarcastic, hilarious, amazing critic as well. And so we probably know him best for his poem The Raven and for other works like The Telltale Heart. Speaking for myself, and I know speaking for you as well, Ed, mainly through The Simpsons and our, just in general, our pop culture education that came from The Simpsons. I cannot read The Raven without hearing, Bart and Homer in that. And I love that about it. I think Poe would have appreciated it.
Yeah, well, I think early 19th century, right, the British had Jane Austen, the Bronte sisters, Charles Dickens, all of those great authors from that period. And maybe the Americans were a little bit lacking. And Poe was like one of those great figures from that side of the Atlantic, basically.
Well, I think it's really interesting as well to think of Charles Dickens and Poe living at the same time, and they were contemporaries, they talked about each other. And I think that's kind of fascinating because in my mind, they're very separate. We look back at classics and to us, they're sort of compartmentalized into their little worlds of what they give us. But actually, these people were writing at the same time. They were influenced by similar political influences and so on. And Poe was certainly very much influenced by what was going on in the world around him. So a lot of what he wrote about was political satire kind of thing or commentary on what was going on in the world as he was writing. He's a fascinating person. I feel like we would have been great friends had we met. When I think of Poe as well, I just think of that meme and it's like, R.I.P. Poe, you would have loved flash fiction. That is how I feel. He wrote short stories, of course, but he was very much fixated on this idea of brevity and of, we'll talk about the single effect, but of sort of encapsulating in a single sitting a feeling in a story. And, he tended towards the dark feelings, not always, but that's sort of what he leaned towards. That was his thing. But overall, just really valuing this idea of how art can kind of affect you in a moment. And I think he really would have loved flash fiction, honestly.
Would have been into it. So before we get into Poe's short stories, let's discuss a couple of his non-fiction pieces.
Yeah.
So what do you got first?
Well, I guess what I wanted to cover was this whole idea of the single effect. We talk about it a lot in relation to the competition. I know there'd be people coming in who haven't heard us talk about it, who are like, what the hell are you talking about? This idea of the single effect. And it's something I guess I came across separately to Poe. I know Poe through The Raven and The Telltale Heart. I didn't know much more about him, to be honest. But he has this whole theory about basically very short fiction that I think is very, very relevant to flash fiction writing and competitions in particular. I think it's really illuminating and helpful to think about. Like, it's not like this overarching rule that you can't ever violate.
Yeah.
But it is a really helpful way to think about things when you're writing a piece of flash fiction, especially when, you're in a competition setting, you've got ideas bouncing around. It's like, which idea do I choose? Which path do I go down? And basically Poe's advice was think about the effect you want to create on the reader, the emotional effect, and make everything point to that. And my vibe, based on these couple of recommended pieces of reading from Chris from the Poe Museum, is that Poe was very much a plotter.
Yeah.
He liked to think things through in advance, and as a result, he sort of was aiming towards very specific effects. I think you can do the same thing in an edit as well.
Yeah.
I think there's a few things to learn, and when I'm reading them as a judge of a flash fiction competition, it's resonating with me. I'm like, yes, this makes perfect sense. This is a really good strategy. So I guess that's why I want to share it. I really feel like it's effective.
He was also, reading these little pieces, these little non-fiction pieces. He seemed like a short fiction writer in a world of novelists.
100%.
Like that was his context. Not that he was against that, but really his focus was on being a piece that you could sit down that would kind of consume you in one sitting, and that you had the opportunity to put forward like this single effect and this emotion that you're trying to make the reader feel. And if you pick it up and you have to put it down and go do something else and pick it back up, then I don't want a part of it kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I think he was mainly talking about poetry in that aspect, but nevertheless, I think he sort of had that feeling in general that, it should be enjoyed in one sitting and you should get that effect in one sitting. And that's really kind of, I feel really relevant in the modern day when we are just on our phones and scrolling. And I don't know about you, but I find it really hard to just sit with a piece of anything, to be honest, and read right through it without checking my phone or responding to my child who's asking a question or whatever it might be. Just all of a sudden I need to go to the toilet or I need to go and get something to eat. Like I'm just constantly distracted. And I think a lot of us feel that way. And so Poe was writing short stories, 2,000 to 3,000 words plus kind of thing, up to 8,000 kind of more. And I feel like it's that same thing, but condense it down again for a modern audience who just don't have the headspace to focus even for 8,000 words, There's something really powerful in having just that really short, sharp impact on someone. And that's not to say a novel is worthless or, a TV series that you can't watch all in one go, that it's worthless. No, they serve a different purpose. But I think it's nice to reflect on what a very short piece of fiction or poetry can do. And I think that's what he did.
I think that a novel can be complex and the complexity is a strength of a novel. Like you can really get in the weeds, you can follow multiple plot lines, but a short piece has simplicity and I think that's its strength as well. Like you can lean into that simplicity, focus on one thing. And I think he's right about that. They're different mediums really. Like they're trying to achieve different things. And when you talk about short fiction or short film, whatever, you're really focusing on one single thing and one effect. And good advice, which is why we keep bringing it up again and again.
Yeah, I guess I'd like to sort of elaborate what it means exactly for those who are less familiar with it. So I've got this article in front of me, it's actually the review of Nathaniel Hawthorne's work. It's called Tale Writing Nathaniel Hawthorne by Edgar Allan or Edgar A. Poe. And it's about the body of work by Nathaniel Hawthorne, which is the author of The Scarlet Letter, amongst other things. So in this piece, he's talking about, amongst other things, because he does have some other things to say about Nathaniel Hawthorne, about the idea of originality, which is, I think, what this article is mostly about, is this idea of originality. But he goes on to say that basically you should be, by design, creating a single effect in your work. And when we say single effect, we mean an emotional impact on the reader. And that can be quite specific. There's no judgment as to what that effect might be, that there just has to be one, basically, and that it's by design that is what you are trying to achieve. You're not kind of dilly-dallying and just saying things for the sake of saying things. You are trying to create an effect on someone. And whether you do that, as Poe might have, in a structured and plottery kind of way and planning that all out, fine, or whether you write your story and come back later, analyse it and edit it to fit. I think that's something I think about when I'm writing my own stories. What don't I need? You write the story and then you have to refine. And I think that's the beauty of the 500-word format. You've always got too much. What doesn't need to be there? What is not serving this particular story? Even if I find it satisfying to myself, like it's fun or interesting or evocative, okay, but is it evoking the thing I need it to evoke or something else? And that's always worth consideration when you're editing. So apart from that, this article only lightly touches on this idea of the single effect. It goes into much more detail about originality, which I think is also really interesting when it comes to flash fiction. I think, I don't know about you, Ed, but I do get a little bit fixated on this idea of I need to be original or write something different. And we know, those of us who've been in the game long enough, that there is no such thing as an original thought. It's all been done. And that's fine, but trying to find some angle or some piece of something that feels fresh. And I guess I just wanted to bring it up because he does have some interesting insights in that sense. So he was kind of saying that people were criticising Nathaniel Hawthorne and saying he's just weird, basically. And Poe's comment on that was, being weird is not the same as being original. That gets old pretty fast kind of thing. What he saw as being original is basically being yourself, being very much yourself. And that's how he described it, like your imagination, but you're consistent with that. You are always following your imagination down that path, is what he was basically saying Nathaniel Hawthorne did and what he found to be his greatest value. And I think that's a pretty good piece of advice too, it's not about trying to invent something out of nothing that's never existed before. That might be one person's type of originality. So the goal then, in Poe's words, is not to just create something out of nothing, but for the reader to say, here is a charmingly obvious fancy, or sometimes even, here is a thought which I am not sure has ever occurred to myself, but which of course has occurred to all the rest of the world. We usually designate it as the natural. So basically what he's saying is you want to create a sense of originality, which is everybody goes, I wish I thought of that. And isn't that the satisfying feeling that you get reading something? It's not, here's something I never considered and has never entered my brain, but that feeling of completeness of, I nearly thought that but never did, and that fills in a piece of my human puzzle. It's almost
obvious.
And I think that's a really nice way of thinking of it. It's completely intimidating because how do we achieve that? I don't know. But I do like this idea of just leaning into what your intuition is telling you to do and kind of being your own unique self rather than maybe original self.
I feel like that's something that we do talk about, in different contexts as well. On, for example, Daredevil episodes that we do, is following the path that you have, like the story that you've written, and taking that to places where I guess you want to go, developing to new and interesting places. Just allowing yourself that permission to go a little bit crazy in the way that you can.
Yeah, like your freak flag.
But exactly. And there's something to be said for that, because I think all of us as writers at some time or another have kind of thought, well, where should this story go? Where would it logically go based on all the things I've read in the past and media I've experienced? But really just taking it somewhere unique to you has more of an impact often on the reader because they weren't going to go there.
Yeah, only you could do that. Only you could bring that unique combination of thoughts and feelings and expressions to bear.
And if you can also make that, I guess, universal in that way that is easily understandable by people to the point where they can go, yes, I have, as you say, almost thought of that or perhaps thought of that before, but you've thrown a new spin on it.
Yeah, and I think he makes a distinction here too, and I have to say, Poe is fucking hilarious. Like, he talks in old-timey language, which can be quite dense at times, but he is so sarcastic and such a bitch, and it is so hilarious. So if you read these and if you've got that, if you're a bit of a nerd and you don't mind unpacking the language, you will be rewarded because he is constantly roasting people. But what he was roasting here about the critics is kind of basically saying people think originality, or critics and literary people think originality is one thing, which is like testing the bounds of what's never been done before and what's acceptable and what's popular and whatever. And that works for people who are so jaded and who've seen everything before and who just go, oh, thank God, something different. And that's what they see as originality. Yeah. But what he's saying is that popular opinion is very different. And what they see as originality is more, as we've described, that I almost thought that and didn't. Like, this is, you've expressed something that I have failed to express so far myself, but which resonates with me. And I think they are two very different things. And in the context of like writing competitions, for example, we look at sometimes the peer-judged writing competitions versus others. And my experience personally writing peer-judged competitions is that I write in a slightly different style to try and appeal more broadly, to not offend, which is my biggest challenge personally. But, you know, to kind of capture something more broad than I might otherwise if I was writing just for myself or to a specific audience. So I think that's an interesting insight as well about how popular culture receives things. But basically saying you're all a bunch of wankers. Like, you know, it's not about that. There's more to it. But, you know, we've veered off topic a bit. We've been talking about originality. It's all very fascinating, but I do want to get into a little bit more detail about this single effect idea. So there was this other article recommended by Chris from the Poe Museum called The Philosophy of Composition. And you read this as well.
So. Yeah, so this was the one that he wrote about the Raven, or really his thought process in the Raven. And look, I did read the Raven again as part of this. It wasn't on the list because I think everyone's read it. But I will say,
or watched it on The Simpsons.
Exactly. But I will say it's famous for a reason. It's a great poem, and it's probably, if you're not familiar with it or if you haven't read it for a while, just read it again. I think it's great. It's a great piece. So the philosophy of composition was, I believe, an article that was published by Poe, kind of explaining his thought process around writing The Raven and how he approached it. And he starts with this idea of beginning with the ending in mind, or the denouement, as he calls it. So writing backwards.
But not writing backwards necessarily from the end, although that is what he described he did in The Raven. He basically wrote the last line first and then tried to de-escalate from that escalated position. But also talking about what is the end effect that I wanted to achieve. And that's where we get into this whole single effect idea. And he's like overthinking it to the extreme, which again, relatable, love him to death. Like, he's talking about the word nevermore, which is repeated through The Raven, and how he was thinking about the syllables in that and the long O, and how he could combine both the meaning of the word with the sound of the word to create this kind of melancholy effect.
And he did talk about why he chose that word, and it's interesting to read. The point of the story is not around that word and what that word is. It was more about the sound and like the mystery of that word, which is interesting.
But that's inspiration, right? Yeah. That's where you begin and then you go back from there. And so he was talking about how he went from this word nevermore and the idea of this character who was trying to get that answer. It's like this sort of psychological effect of like, I'm going to ask a question that makes you say nevermore, that makes me feel bad. And if you've ever been like, if you've ever had a breakup or you're feeling a bit depressed and all you want to do is just press that bruise and make it feel worse, like that is what this story is about. Like, I'm going to ask this Raven the thing that when it answers, inevitably the word nevermore is going to make me feel as shit as possible. And so that's kind of where he went with it, I think very cleverly. But yeah, it started with basically what you're telling me, Raven, is that I'm never going to see my love again because she's dead. And the Raven's like, yep. Like, that's where he started and he had to work back from there. But as it relates to the single effect, he said, and this was like, again, overthink much, but he began with considering the idea of the effect and asking himself, and maybe this is a little piece of advice for writers who are writing a piece of flash fiction, to ask yourself, of the innumerable effects or impressions of which the heart, the intellect, or more generally the soul is susceptible, what one shall I, on the present occasion, select? So of all the feelings, of all the things, what do I feel like today? What am I going to go with? I think that's a nice place to start.
I think that's interesting because whenever we talk about flash fiction, we talk about how do we approach a set of prompts? What kind of ideas does that give you? Like what premises does that inspire? But maybe that's a different way of thinking about it. Like what is the feeling? What do I feel right now?
Yeah.
How does that inspire me in its own different way to write within those prompts?
And that's
I've never thought about that.
Yeah, like as a reader and as a judge, I can tell when someone's writing from a place of like their thing that they're feeling in that moment. And when someone's really angry or when someone's really frustrated or when someone's like sad or whatever it is, and it's flowing through and the story itself isn't true. The story's just whatever the prompts spat out for them in their brain, but they wanted to express that and they successfully did that. I think that's huge. I think that does resonate for me anyway when someone does that. You know, we talked about him being a plotter. He describes it as in the creation of the Raven as that it proceeded step by step to its completion with the precision and rigid consequence of a mathematical problem. Like this guy, this bitch, who's writing this piece of essentially flash fiction. It's a poem, but wow, he sees it as a maths problem and he's like, I want the sound, I want the O to be a long O and that makes me feel sad. And then I want the word to be nevermore because that makes me feel sad. And then what kind of animal is sad? He's like, oh, it's not realistic for a person to just keep going nevermore. Like that's not going to fly with the reader. So let's give it to an animal who's capable of speech and let's make that animal a black raven because that feels sad. And all of this stuff and the weather. What weather is it? You know, it's howling wind. And that also makes sense for now that why the raven's tapping on the window to get in or the door to get in. And even talking about the bust above the door and how the raven settles on that and the contrast between the black and the white of the marble and all of that. Completely overthinking it, but it works. It all works.
Yeah, I feel like that, especially that mathematical approach to writing as a problem to be solved, that feels like very aligned to poetry. And I have some experience in that in writing my little poem, Who Shat Their Pants, because I did have some of the similar thoughts. Like it is a problem to be solved. You've got like this meter that needs to be met. You're trying to kind of move it from one moment to the next within these constraints. And it's a bit like a puzzle more so than a piece of prose where you just kind of write it out.
You got a bit more flexibility. Yeah. No,
so
it's true.
I can sympathise with that.
You're just totally on board with the Raven.
Exactly. I mean, that's it. Who Shat Their Pants is another great modern work.
I happen to agree, to be honest. Another little tidbit, I guess, from this particular article from Poe and something worth thinking about when we're framing our pieces of flash fiction. You know, we often talk about having a single scene and a single setting, like unless there's a good reason to veer off otherwise. Containing it allows us to really focus in on the crucial aspects. And Poe had his own view on that, and I think it kind of it feeds into what we typically say. And he said, it's always appeared to me that a close circumscription of space is absolutely necessary to the effect of insulated incident. It has the force of a frame of a picture. And I love that idea that you're framing your little scene. And to think about that frame, we're not just setting it anywhere. And I think this is the kind of thing that when you're leveling up with your writing and when you've got the time, by the way, as well, to think a little bit more deeply about what you're writing, you might think about, well, where am I setting it? Am I just setting it here because that's where my brain went in the first instance of picturing what was going on? Or am I going to think a bit more deeply about what frames my moment in the most vivid way? And so, you know, he talks about choosing the chamber for the Raven and that is a place of, you know, quiet reflection, but also, you know, it's being violated by this sort of the Raven coming in and this might be a place where he's thinking about his lost love and all of this stuff. Like he thought about that. He chose that space. It could have been any room, but he chose that particular space. Where might you encounter a Raven? Out in the wild somewhere. And, you know, I think that's a really valid point. And I think when you do have the time to think that through, thinking about the setting, not just as if it's inconsequential and unimportant, but how can it add value to what you're trying to show? How can it either frame it like a picture or contribute to that feeling that you're trying to evince in the reader.
Yeah, and I think setting is a huge part of Poe's story, reading through some of his works. I mean, you mentioned the framing. I think also there's a lot of these stories do have like a claustrophobic feel about it. Like they're very much, well, some of them are set in dungeons and kind of in like cellars and things like that.
Catacombs.
Yeah, exactly. But they're very much embedded in that setting. It's also true to say that the setting is almost a character as well in a lot of these stories. Like when we do talk about the catacombs, like you'd get the sense of the dampness and the dankness. And in, for example, Descent into the Maelstrom, it's more of an outside story where the weather and the sea plays a big role. So all of those stories, the setting is very well considered and forms a part of not only the story but also the single effect.
The vibe.
The vibe, absolutely.
But I think all of this is fascinating. Like when we talk about single effect, this is what we're saying. We're saying what emotion are you trying to evoke? And where this comes most starkly into play is in stories where I feel like there's an unpleasant contradiction in tone, either maybe between the title and then the story that follows, or within the story. We sometimes receive stories where we've got this kind of comical thing going on, but then it's also dark and disturbing at the same time. And as a reader, it can be confusing, like, what are we trying to take from this? Now, there is such a thing as black comedy, and it is okay to have dark comedy, but it has to be that dark comedy. You can't sort of go from Benny Hill and then to, talking about grief kind of thing. You have to find a way to be consistent and cohesive in your themes and in your mood of your piece, especially in such a short piece. And so I think that's worth considering sometimes, like, especially if you're more of a pantser and you're kind of just going with the flow, sometimes you can introduce elements to your story that are actually detracting from your story, and you need to be able to identify them and remove them and maybe replace them with something else that is feeding into and building that one effect that you're trying to create, which might be either the comedic effect or the darker effect in this example. And I think that's really important to think that through, because we just don't have time or headspace to, in a single piece of 500-word flash fiction, traverse these emotions. It's meant to just hit us in the gut one time, I think. Like, that's my view. I'm not saying it can't be done, but typically, in my experience, the stories that try to do both fail at both. Yeah. But we also talk about, I think I expand the term maybe unfairly of this single effect idea. We sometimes apply it to theme as well, not just emotional impact, but kind of like almost, okay, if you're writing a story set on the sea, well, now everything has to kind of have sea vibes. And you might choose certain words because they have a shushing sound, or something like the sound of a wave, or you might focus a detail and compare it to a fish scale. And everything is sort of building towards this view of the sea. And that's not an emotional effect, but it's kind of a thematic effect. And I think for me, this concept that Poe had of single effect in terms of that emotional experience also applies to like a thematic experience. And in a piece that's only 500 words, to me, it's playful as well and a bit of a game. Like, what word can I choose that's more sea-like than the word I did choose? And that all feeds into this satisfaction of something feeling like a complete whole.
Yeah, I don't think those are different things. I think that is exactly what Poe was talking about. And I think that's what he does in his own writing, as I mentioned, in Descent into the Maelstrom, which is about like storms at sea, basically. That's the Maelstrom. We don't just get that happening in the story, we get all of the language being stormy. It's like stormy language, waves, everything happens in waves and everything crashes against everything else. So it comes out in the language and the way that he describes the story. In the Cask of Amontillado, we're going into the catacombs, and you get things told in this kind of dark, claustrophobic language.
It feels wet. It's like it's dripping.
It's dripping. And part of that is a description, and part of that is choosing those words that emphasize that single effect. And whether it's thematic, whether it's emotional, like those are words you can use, but in short pieces, you need everything to be pointing towards one thing. And I mean, I think there is probably a point where you can say like too much as well.
For sure.
And, if you're like, oh, I've used a word here that doesn't link into the theme, like that's not necessarily a problem. Yeah. You don't have to go too far. But really you want to be emphasizing and directing the reader overall into that single effect.
Yeah, and I think it does come down to every single choice in your story. Like, what is your character's name?
Yeah.
Where do they live? What do they look like? whatever it is you're choosing to show in your story, and you don't always show all of those things, how are those things contributing not just to our view of who this character is, for example, but who this character is in the context of this very specific story? Yeah. What thing about them matters in the context of this story? I think for me, a helpful way of thinking about it always is if you were telling this story at a party or if you were telling this story to your best friend, what's the detail you'd mention and what's the detail you'd leave out in that situation? And so I think it comes down to that, like, what are the details you're choosing to show? How do they contribute to this theme? Yeah. How do they all fit as part of one cohesive picture? I don't think we're looking in that context for a complex individual. We want a hint of complexity, but not to have to delve into that complexity. We want to know it's there, but we only want to see that aspect of it that plays into the narrative.
Yeah. So I think that's all we have to say about Single Effect. We can put that one to bed forever and never, ever bring that up again.
Totally.
But let's talk about some of these stories that we read, some fun stories.
I had so much fun reading this stuff. Oh, he's so good.
Yeah, all these stories have such a fun voice. It's a writing style we don't see very often.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just of its time.
Yeah.
Probably read a little bit more smoothly at the time than it does now. But I don't know, just the sarcastic bitchiness of it all really just spoke to me.
Yeah.
He was just always roasting people.
Yeah.
Including himself. I think that's great.
So I suppose that's a good segue to the first little short story in this list, which is Never Bet the Devil Your Head, because this is like a bit of a polemic about...
Sorry, I don't mean to sound like a bimbo, but what does that mean? What's a polemic?
So a polemic is basically like a piece of writing that attacks an idea, like a critical piece of writing.
Gotcha.
So in this Never Bet the Devil Your Head, and part of the problem with reading Poe from like a couple of 100 years ago is that we don't have that cultural context and we don't know what he's really pushing back against, and you have to read further reading to kind of get to that point. But this piece, part of what it's doing is pushing back on the idea that like literature needs to have a moral. It needs to end with a lesson essentially for the reader. And yeah, the whole point of this story is
ironically the moral is don't have a moral.
It kind of is. It kind of does have a moral, yes, ironically. Did you read this one?
I did, yeah. It's completely stupid.
Yeah.
I think he got a bit carried away with himself in this one. But basically he's talking about this character who's always betting everyone everything, but not following through. And basically his catchphrase is, I'll bet the devil my head that whatever. And so he says it out loud that he's going to bet the devil his head that he can jump over this stile. Yeah. And this little creepy dude's like, sorry, what was that you said just now? And he's like, I said I'd bet the devil my head. And he's like, okay, let's shake on it. Yeah. And so he does this running jump over the stile and chops his head off like on a pole. He like nails himself on a pole and his head comes clean off, which is amazing. Like imagine running so fast you knocked your head off on a pole. Yeah. So completely stupid. But I think Poe himself was a bit of a gambler, so I think he resonated with this gambler character and just completely overplayed this idea that it's wrong to gamble. I don't know how you felt about it. I felt like it was pretty frivolous.
It felt pretty frivolous. But look, reading into like some of the commentary and analysis around this story, like this is Chris's description of the story, and Chris being the curator of the Poe Museum. It's a short story making fun of the transcendentalists, of which we have no concept today. You know, they're not a part of our lives. So we don't read that deeper meaning and like we don't read the sarcasm and the critique out of this story. We take it as a frivolous story.
Yeah, true.
Like,
we're not getting
I don't
like
think
all
we can
the
fully
innuendo.
appreciate it.
Yeah, totally.
So the next story, Hop Frog, maybe has some problematic elements
to it. It is
so
so problematic. It does not fly in 2026, which is what I love most of all about it. And my friend Pat, and hi to Pat if you're listening, she loves problematic stuff. It just tickles her in this way of like loving the fact that you can't get away with it. So I think she'd really like it, but there's just a lot of highly racist and horrible references.
I don't think anyone, there's ableist,
body shaming.
It's
a lot
all
of
in there.
ableism. Yeah, everything. Tick, tick, tick. But this one is about basically a court jester kind of guy.
It's revenge. Yeah. You could see this plot taking place in like a Game of Thrones.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And it's very dark and pretty crazy. I quite enjoyed that one. I am in my revenge era, so I did enjoy that. But basically, let's put it this way. The king has his little jester, who everyone calls Hop Frog. So just insert your own imagination.
It's un-PC era.
Yeah, like what his challenges might be. And the king roasts him, but the king just thinks everything is funny. Like the king's just here for a good time. And basically Hop Frog latches onto that. And he's like, okay, well, I'm going to beat you at your own game kind of thing. And so the king's like, oh, we're going to have this masquerade ball. But I want to really just trick everyone and be so funny and amazing. Like, give me all your ideas, basically. And Hop Frog is like, okay, here's what you have to do. You have to scare everyone. So basically what he does is he gets the king to come to this party late and sort of scare everyone because everyone is so fucking naive that a dude coming in with like a wolf mask or whatever it was he had.
They're probably all drunk.
They're drunk as fuck, to be fair. But like, they're like, oh my God, it's real. I'm just a naive person. I don't understand that like a bit of a costume is not an animal. So anyway, they're all freaking out and the king's loving himself sick because he scared everyone at his own party. But then Hop Frog, meanwhile, is like, oh, anyways. And then he hooks the king onto like the chandelier and hoists him up. And the king and his mates, who is chained all together, that's part of the reason. He's like, oh, you've got to be chained together. It's going to be so much more funny if you're all chained together. And they're so dumb. They're like, okay, great idea. Anyway, so he hoists them all up and then basically he just sets them on fire and they're just like burning in the sky. And everyone's like, oh, shit. You know, like this is a bit dramatic.
Yeah. I mean, look, in their defense, this was pre-internet. So they were really bored. They were like entertaining. So they've got no jobs. They just sit around. They like do something.
Just got to make your own snuff films.
And it's like,
when you
guys
don't have
all got
internet.
to be chained up. And they're like, yes, something. Do that.
Please, for the love of God. I'm only going to live to 40 years old.
Exactly,
I've got to make the most
well.
of it. Yeah, I mean, so that story was just on every level a problem, but love a bit of revenge.
A lot of fun. Yeah, and speaking of revenge, the next story, The Cask of Amontillado.
That was actually the first one I read. And when I say I'm in revenge era, like, you know, I don't need to share it on air. But
I feel like your revenge era...
Go on. Do you want to be added to my list? Please, tell me more.
I was going to say, does it have a start date or has it just kind of been building from the start?
Listen, I don't know. It comes and goes, but I'm definitely vibing with it at the moment. It's a predominant feeling at the moment. And so I read The Cask of Amontillado, and if you are feeling revengey, if you are feeling like someone's done you wrong, you got to read this story. It makes you feel so good. You're like, this is what I need to do in my life.
Yeah.
This is basically a blueprint for how I should behave, which is to basically lure the villain down into your catacombs and wall them in to die.
Yeah. And look, this is the one that we called out for the single effect moments, like this whole idea of being in the catacombs. It's moist. There's also a lot of coughing that's happening in there. Like it's coughing and spluttering and moisture and just like... Yeah, you really feel the mold in the air.
It's very damp. He talks about the mold, I think. I feel like the mold is mentioned specifically, and if it's not, it's definitely alluded to.
Yeah.
But they're walking through and there's all the bones in there. It's the proper catacombs with all the skeletons and everything. I guess I had to Google it, so I didn't know what a cask of Amontillado was, and it's basically like a big barrel of wine, a particular type of wine called Amontillado.
It's like a barrel of Penfolds or something.
I'm not sure about Penfolds. That might be going a bit far.
It's a fancy, expensive wine that is hard to come by.
And he's saying to this guy, oh, you should come try it because I really value your opinion and I know you're such a connoisseur. And the guy's like, oh, I fucking am a connoisseur. And he's in there immediately. So if you know someone who's a massive wanker, that's how to get them into your catacombs. And then, I mean, I should have said spoiler alert about 10 minutes ago, but basically.
That's all right. I think the statute of limitations has passed. I've got in my notes for this one that it's interesting that we never learn, like, why from this main character. Why does he hate this guy and is seeking revenge?
Because he's a wanker.
But we don't know. We don't get told. So I think as readers, we get to imprint our own little revenge fantasy on this character and think of our own reasons.
I'm thinking of some reasons right now.
You are. Okay. So the next one, William Wilson, I have not read.
Well, it was 8,000 words, so I gave it a little bit of a pass as well. But I have read Berenice. So according to Chris, this was Poe's first horror story, which is cool. Love a bit of horror. And they all have sort of macabre horror sort of themes as well. But this one is about basically a dude who marries his cousin, which, you know, I'm sure is a little bit autobiographical for Poe, but his cousin's like this beautiful, frolicking, like lovely, full of life kind of girl, basically, and he's kind of this morose dude. And again, I'm sure this is just a little bit autobiographical about Poe, but she becomes ill. And as a result, she starts wasting away. She's got some sort of wasting illness, and she just loses all this weight, and she loses her lust for life, and it's very sad. So it touches on this idea of monomania, which is kind of like an obsession in one thing to the point where it's kind of driving you mad. But like in every other respect, you're fine. But this one thing is really getting to you. And so obviously, you know, he's traumatized by what's happening to his wife, but he gets really fixated. He sees this vision of her, and it's not clear whether it's really her or just her in his imagination, but he becomes like obsessed with her teeth and they creep him out massively. And it's a beautifully creepy description. It's quite evocative and impressive the way he describes these teeth, but he becomes obsessed with them. And then Berenice dies, and so he goes to her in her bed, and there's this horrible moment where he goes in the curtains of the bed and he becomes horrified and, you know, sort of runs away and she's buried. And then he kind of goes into this trance. So he keeps talking about going into these trances. And again, I think this might have been a little bit autobiographical because I think he did have epilepsy. At least that's what I gather. And he would sort of go into these trance-like states. And so the character in this story is sort of in this trance, and then one of the servants wakes him up and he's like, so anyway, your dead wife has been like dug up.
Yeah.
And she wasn't dead. And anyway, all her teeth are missing.
Yeah.
And he opens this little container next to him and it's full of her teeth. So he's like dug her up and pulled all her teeth out. Yeah. And she wasn't dead. She was herself like had an epileptic fit or was in, you know, a trance-like state herself and wasn't in fact dead. So it's incredibly creepy. It starts with her having this creepy effect, but then he's the one who kind of is the evil one in the end. So I don't know, it's kind of beautiful the way he describes things, and it's definitely incredibly creepy. But I don't know, it's impressive to be able to creep people out. I think it's hard to creep people out these days. It's hard to kind of impress on someone enough to make them feel creeped out. Yeah. But he achieved it. Why are teeth creepy? Yeah. They are though,
well,
aren't
they're bones. They're visible bones.
Visible bones.
Yeah. A reminder that like there's a skull anyway.
We've all got skulls in our bodies.
So the next story, King Pest. Did you read this one?
Yeah, also problematic. Good fun. I mean, at this point, I feel like I'm just giving a little bit of a summary and you can go and see which ones interest you. King Pest is about these two sailors who Go
on.
They really liked hockey as well. It was weird. No, it's about these two sailors who are on land and they go to the pub and then they can't pay for their beer or whatever, and then they get chased out of the pub and they get chased into this area that's been like locked off because of, I guess, the plague or whatever pestilence it is. So all the houses are abandoned and you're not supposed to go down there, but like they're drunk as fuck and they're just running around. They're like, whatever, we're fine. And there's like rotting corpses and the houses are falling apart. Like you're getting this really rotting vibe from the story. And then they like bust into this house and there's just this company of, I think it's 6 like really fucking weird people. And each of them has a very distinctive feature about their face that is very memorable. So one's got a really long and flexible nose. The other's got massive ears that pretty much go up to the ceiling. One's got a mouth that's just like rips her face in half basically, and like her earring gets into her mouth because it's so close to her ear. Like they've each just got these really over-exaggerated parts of their face. It's very creepy and weird. And they're all just drunk and talking about the wine and talking about, hey, how come you guys are here? This is our mate's place. Why are you in our mate's place? And all this stuff. But like the weirdos there are like, no, we are royalty. And this is King Pest. And this is Queen Pest. And we're all just like, this is our realm basically. And there's really no point to the story. But basically like they chuck one of the sailors into like a barrel of wine or something. Like it's like a punch bowl, but it's so big that he fits in and starts drowning. And then his mate comes in to save him and tips it over, and then they all drown in the punch.
Right.
So it's just completely bizarre, completely just creepy and gross and weird. But, you know, I enjoyed it.
So Chris's description for this is a comedy so dark that Robert Louis Stevenson said that whoever could write it had ceased to be human.
Which is just amazing praise. Like, go for it.
I mean, that's the thing. It doesn't sound like it has any kind of moral to it or any kind of point to it. It's just like, hey, watch this.
Yeah.
Watch
this is fucked up
thing.
100%. That's exactly what it is. And it's good fun.
So the next one I read on this list was The Telltale Heart. And actually, this is the first one I read, I think, just to refamiliarize myself with this. And I realized I had read it as well as just kind of absorbing the plot from The Simpsons.
Again,
and
The
other
Simpsons.
references.
Mm-hmm. The diorama.
But yeah, this was one, again, the single effect at work. And for me, like that sound. It's the sound, it's the tapping, it's all of those things that kind of really permeate that story.
That story as well, I feel, is just such a solid concept. Like it's just such a cohesive, like...
It's memorable.
Yeah, cool idea. You're like, well, that's done now, that idea. But this idea of being haunted by your misdeeds. Now, interestingly, one of the stories in our Flesh Fiction Volume 1 is The Telltale Cock.
Yes.
And fashioned after this story, but with a bit of a different intent. Mm-hmm. But I feel, similarly entertaining.
Yes. But, the second story that we've spoken about that involves someone or something being bricked in behind a wall. So was this a thing at the time? Is this like what you did, or is this just a Poe
I think
thing?
there was a bit of a fixation about being buried alive. Yeah. I think that was something people were worried about. Like you imagine now the things people worry about because they're in the Daily Mail or because they're being pushed by Fox News or whatever as being like a real and immediate threat. And maybe at the time the idea of being buried alive was something that the media and people in general were kind of overthinking and worrying about.
Yeah, it could have been, but it also could have been legit because the quality of doctors and, medical knowledge might have been like, this person's dead. And no,
they're asleep.
I was just really drunk.
Oh, dear. Yeah, well, I mean, clearly it was something that he thought a lot about. So I think that had something to do with it for sure.
All right. So the next one, The Black Cat.
Again.
Another very atmospheric story. And yeah, right.
Yeah, I fucking love this story. This was probably one of my top stories. Yeah. And you have a black cat and it scared the shit out of me just earlier.
Jumped out of the wall there earlier.
It did, haunting me, you might say. And I don't want to ruin this one, but it's really good. Yeah. This is really, really good. What he did really well was this kind of the idea of someone who's lost the plot, but believably, like who's just kind of been swept away in their own thoughts to the point where they no longer make sense.
Yeah. So he kills the cat and he's kind of fucked up about it. But like, so he should, because it was like on and off.
It. He like really lost it. He didn't just kind of accidentally kill the cat. He lost his mind. He aggressively and very psychotically killed the cat.
He did. And it was kind of inexcusable what he did.
But also he had this weird like jealous rage about the cat. He's like, fuck you, cat. Look at you, the way you kind of look at me. Kind of and he's got really obsessed with it as if the cat was out to get him. And he's like, yeah, well, I'll show you who's boss kind of thing. It's like, mate, it's a cat.
Yeah.
Or is it?
I felt like Poe lost me as a like
you lost yourself a customer.
You lost yourself as someone who would then like identify with the protagonist. It was just like, whoa, dude.
I don't know. I did.
Oh, you felt like you identified.
I don't know. I think he does a really great job of making it feel real. He just got carried away.
It was the opposite of a save the cat moment, I felt, though, for that protagonist, though. I was like, not on board.
Got you. Fair enough. I mean, as the owner of a black cat, I can see how that might have been a little bit triggering for you.
Yes. So the next story, A Descent into the Maelstrom, which, again, atmospheric, single effect, focused on the weather and the waves. And one thing I wanted to just mention about this story, about all of Poe's stories, really, which is worth mentioning, is the fact that none of them, to my knowledge, unless I've missed something, none of them are supernatural. They're all very grounded in reality. And
I think there's a hint often of the supernatural, but he's kind of made an allowance for it to be real or imagined, like, for example, in The Black Cat, it's kind of suggested that the cat's haunting him and coming back from the dead, but you can imagine a real explanation for that, but the character believes it.
The character believes it, but like there's never a ghost. And there's never a supernatural character in the stories. It always comes back to reality and it always comes back to problem solving.
But then there's like never bet the devil your head, and there's like a little devil dude who's like, like, that we touch on it. There's like it's possible that there's a real world explanation, but it is also equally possible that there's something extra going on.
I feel like Poe was quite a skeptic. Reading his writing when it comes to supernatural things, he comes across as someone who was looking at things very logically, and it would have taken a fair bit to push back on those prevailing ideas of the time and write these stories that are strictly materialistic, let's say. You know, we're talking about horror stories. They're not horror stories about ghosts, and they're horror stories about people.
They're horror stories about people who've got really fucking massive eyeballs that are so big that they're unbelievably large.
From supernatural, that's just a freak show kind of idea. You know what I mean? Like I think there's a point to be made, and I think often in horror, there is a tendency to lean into the supernatural, and that doesn't happen here. It's as you say, like, yes, you can say that there are references to that being like an idea, but there are always logical reasons that are put forward, and the characters do approach these situations rationally and try to get out of them. Like the pit and the pendulum, the character is basically like applying a scientific method to try and get out of his predicament of being in this pit as a pendulum is trying to like slice him in half.
Very Indiana Jones.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, the end is a bit of a deus ex machina where he's just like pulled out of the situation and
so MacGyver.
And it's
not Indiana Jones, it's MacGyver.
Yeah. Well, he does his best to solve the problem, but it is out of his control, and luckily at the last minute, like someone's like, "No, you're saved." But yeah, overall, I thought that was quite refreshing that a writer of this time was so grounded in reality.
So in addition to this list, and I'm not sure that I published the full list from Chris, I can't recall if I summarised it a little bit, but what I did was, because I was super busy, I'm like...
You forgot to eat.
I totally forgot to eat, first of all. And second of all, I started listening to a podcast where this guy was doing some readings of Poe's works. So I strongly recommend it. I really enjoyed it. It doesn't have everything. It is called The Complete Works of Edgar Allan Poe, and I found it on Spotify. And it's read by Dick Barr, which is an interesting name. Sorry, Dick. But I really enjoyed his voice. He's American. And
can we get Dick Barr to read A Telltale Cock?
I'll have to ask him. He's like a real estate agent or something. And I was listening to a bunch of the stories, and I listened to and really enjoyed The Mask of the Red Death. So Black Cat was one of them, but The Mask of the Red Death was another one. And oh my God, that story is so good. And especially in this era of like with post-COVID times and all this stuff and just rich versus poor and all of these ideas just coming into again, like not really a revenge tale, but I guess himself as the author imagining like this untimely death of maybe someone who represented the elite. Yeah. And it's just, again, really messed up and just so vibey. It feels like it's very cinematic. You feel like you're in the room. And it's very visual, it talks about these different rooms and the different colours and the stained glass and the light shining in. And it's just completely an experience to read it, but also a really fascinating story. So I really strongly recommend The Mask of the Red Death as well. He also read some poems, and one of the ones that's memorable to me just by the title alone is called The Bells. And it's incredibly repetitive, this poem. But what's interesting about it is how he mimics the sound of church bells through his language in the poem. And church bells are very repetitive. But there's this experience as if you're listening to bells chiming while you're listening to the poem. And I think it's not one of my favourites by any means of his poems, but it's a very, very interesting effect that he creates with the language and well worth listening to, probably more so than reading. And I do think Poe's work really lends itself to the audio format. I do think we should read one.
So I think the best story to read is The Cask of Amontillado. Referenced it a few times.
If we're talking about effect, The Cask of Amontillado is probably the one that got me more than most.
And you've drawn the straw, the long or the short, you decide.
Will you help me? Will you play Fortunato?
Yeah. I'll play the dickhead.
Yeah. All right. I can just live out my little revenge fantasy on you now. Great. All right. So here is The Cask of Amontillado by Edgar Allan Poe. The 1,000 injuries of Fortunato I had borne as best I could, but when he ventured upon insult, I vowed revenge. You, who so well know the nature of my soul, will not suppose, however, that I gave utterance to a threat. At length I would be avenged. This was a point definitively settled, but the very definitiveness with which it was resolved precluded the idea of risk. I must not only punish, but punish with impunity. A wrong is unredressed when retribution overtakes its redressal. It is equally unredressed when the avenger fails to make himself felt as such to him who has done the wrong. It must be understood that neither by word nor deed had I given Fortunato cause to doubt my goodwill. I continued, as was my wont, to smile in his face, and he did not perceive that my smile now was at the thought of his immolation. He had a weak point, this Fortunato, although in other regards he was a man to be respected and even feared. He prided himself on his connoisseurship in wine. Few Italians have the true virtuoso spirit. For the most part, their enthusiasm is adopted to suit the time and opportunity, to practice imposture upon the British and Austrian millionaires. In painting and gemmery, Fortunato, like his countrymen, was a quack. But in the matter of old wines, he was sincere. In this respect, I did not differ from him materially. I was skillful in the Italian vintages myself, and bought largely, whenever I could. It was about dusk one evening, during the supreme madness of the carnival season, that I encountered my friend. He accosted me with excessive warmth, for he had been drinking much. The man wore motley. He had on a tight-fitting party-striped dress, and his head was surmounted by the conical cap and bells. I was so pleased to see him that I thought I should never have done wringing his hand. I said to him, "My dear Fortunato, you are luckily met. How remarkably well you are looking today. But I have received a pipe of what passes for Amontillado, and I have my doubts."
"How?"
said he.
"Amontillado? A pipe? Impossible! And in the middle of the carnival?"
"I have my doubts," I replied. "And I was silly enough to pay the full Amontillado price without consulting you in the matter. You were not to be found, and I was fearful of losing a bargain."
"Amontillado?
"I have my doubts."
"Amontillado?
"And I must satisfy them."
"Amontillado?"
"As you are engaged, I am on my way to Lucchese. If anyone has a critical turn, it is he. He will tell me."
"Lucchese cannot tell Amontillado from sherry."
"And yet some fools will have it that his taste is a match for your own."
"Come, let us go."
"Whither?"
"To your vaults."
"My friend, no, I will not impose upon your good nature. I perceive you have an engagement. Lucchese—"
"I have no engagement. Come."
"My friend, no. It is not the engagement, but the severe cold with which I perceive you are afflicted. The vaults are insufferably damp. They are encrusted with nitre."
"Let us go nevertheless. The cold is merely nothing. Amontillado. You have been imposed upon, and as for Lucchese, he cannot distinguish sherry from Amontillado."
Thus speaking, Fortunato possessed himself of my arm, putting on a mask of black silk and drawing a roquelaire closely about my person. I suffered him to hurry me to my palazzo. There were no attendants at home. They had absconded to make merry in honour of the time. I had told them that I should not return until the morning, and had given them explicit orders not to stir from the house. These orders were sufficient, I well knew, to ensure their immediate disappearance, one and all, as soon as my back was turned. I took from their sconces 2 flambeaux, and giving one to Fortunato, bowed him through several suites of rooms to the archway that led into the vaults. I passed down a long and winding staircase, requesting him to be cautious as he followed. We came, at length, to the foot of the descent, and stood together on the damp ground of the catacombs of the Montresors. The gait of my friend was unsteady, and the bells upon his cap jingled as he strode.
"The pipe,"
said he. "It is farther on," said I. "But observe the white webwork which gleams from these cavern walls." He turned towards me and looked into my eyes with 2 filmy orbs that distilled the rheum of intoxication.
"Niter?"
he asked at length. "Niter," I replied. "How long have you had that cough?" My poor friend found it impossible to reply for many minutes.
"It's nothing,"
he said at last. "Come," I said with decision. "We will go back. Your health is precious. You are rich, respected, admired, beloved. You are happy as once I was. You are a man to be missed. For me, it is no matter. We will go back. You will be ill and I cannot be responsible. Besides, there is Lucchese."
"Enough,"
he said.
"The cough is a mere nothing. It will not kill me. I shall not die of a cough."
True, I replied. And indeed, I had no intention of alarming you unnecessarily, but you should use all proper caution. A draught of this Medoc will defend us from the damps. Here I knocked off the neck of a bottle, which I drew from a long row of its fellows that lay upon the mould. "Drink," I said, presenting him the wine. He raised it to his lips with a leer. He paused and nodded to me familiarly while his bells jingled.
"I drink,"
he said,
"to the buried that repose around us."
"And I, to your long life." He again took my arm and we proceeded.
"These vaults,"
he said,
"are extensive."
"The Montresors," I replied, "were a great and numerous family."
"I forget your arms."
"A huge human foot door in a field azure. The foot crushes a serpent rampant, whose fangs are embedded in the heel."
"And the motto?"
"Nemo me impune lacesset."
"Good,"
he said. The wine sparkled in his eyes and the bells jingled. My own fancy grew warm with the Medoc. We had passed through walls of piled bones with casts and puncheons intermingling into the inmost recesses of the catacombs. I paused again, and this time I made bold to seize Fortunato by an arm above the elbow. "The nitre," I said. "See, it increases, it hangs like moss upon the vaults. We are below the river's bed. The drops of moisture trickle among the bones. Come, we will go back ere it is too late. Your cough."
"It's nothing,"
he said.
"Let us go on. But first, another draught of the Medoc."
I broke and reached him a flaçon of de Grave. He emptied it at a breath. His eyes flashed with a fierce light. He laughed and threw the bottle upwards with a gesticulation I did not understand. I looked at him in surprise. He repeated the movement, a grotesque one.
"Do you not comprehend?"
he said. "Not I," I replied.
"Then you are not of the Brotherhood."
"How?"
"You are not of the Masons."
Yes, I said. Yes.
"You? Impossible. A Mason?"
"A Mason," I replied.
"A sign,"
he said. "It is this," I answered, producing a trowel from beneath the folds of my roquelaire.
"You jest,"
he exclaimed, recoiling a few paces.
"But let us proceed to the Amontillado."
"Be it so," I said, replacing the tool beneath the cloak and again offering him my arm. He leaned upon it heavily. We continued our route in search of the Amontillado. We passed through a range of low arches, descended, passed on, and, descending again, arrived at a deep crypt in which the foulness of the air caused our flambeau rather to glow than flame. At the most remote end of the crypt, there appeared another less spacious. Its walls had been lined with human remains, piled to the vault overhead, in the fashion of the great catacombs of Paris. Three sides of this interior crypt were still ornamented in this manner. From the fourth, the bones had been thrown down and lay promiscuously upon the earth, forming at one point a mound of some size. Within the wall, thus exposed by the displacing of the bones, we perceived a still interior recess, in depth about 4 feet, in width 3, in height 6 or 7. It seemed to have been constructed for no especial use within itself, but formed merely the interval between two of the colossal supports of the roof of the catacombs, and was backed by one of their circumscribing walls of solid granite. It was in vain that Fortunato, uplifting his dull torch, endeavoured to pry into the depths of the recess. Its termination, the feeble light, did not enable us to see. "Proceed," I said. "Herein is the Amontillado. As for Lucchese,"
"He is an ignoramus,"
interrupted my friend as he stepped unsteadily forward, while I followed immediately at his heels. In an instant he had reached the extremity of the niche, and finding his progress arrested by the rock, stood stupidly, bewildered. A moment more and I had fettered him to the granite. In its surface were 2 iron staples, distant from each other about 2 feet horizontally. From one of these depended a short chain, from the other, a padlock. Throwing the links about his waist, it was but the work of a few seconds to secure it. He was too much astounded to resist. Withdrawing the key, I stepped back from the recess. "Pass your hand," I said, "over the wall. You cannot help feeling the nitre. Indeed, it is very damp. Once more, let me implore you to return. No? Then I will positively leave you, but I must first render you all the little attentions in my power."
"The Amontillado!"
ejaculated my friend, not yet recovered from his astonishment. "True," I replied. "The Amontillado." As I said these words, I busied myself among the pile of bones of which I have before spoken. Throwing them aside, I soon uncovered a quantity of building stone and mortar. With these materials, and with the aid of my trowel, I began vigorously to wall up the entrance of the niche. I had scarcely laid the first tier of my masonry when I discovered that the intoxication of Fortunato had in great measure worn off. The earliest indication I had of this was a low, moaning cry from the depth of the recess. It was not the cry of a drunken man. There was then a long and obstinate silence. I laid the second tier, and the third, and the fourth. And then I heard the furious vibrations of the chain. The noise lasted for several minutes, during which, that I might hearken to it with the more satisfaction, I ceased my labours and sat down upon the bones. When at last the clanking subsided, I resumed the trowel and finished without interruption. The 5th, the 6th, and the 7th tier. The wall was now nearly upon a level with my breast. I again paused and, holding the flambeau over the masonwork, threw a few feeble rays upon the figure within. A succession of loud and shrill screams bursting suddenly from the throat of the chained form seemed to thrust me violently back. For a brief moment I hesitated. I trembled. Unsheathing my rapier, I began to grope with it about the recess. But the thought of an instant reassured me. I placed my hand upon the solid fabric of the catacombs and felt satisfied. I reapproached the wall. I replied to the yells of him who clamoured. I re-echoed. I aided. I surpassed them in volume and strength. I did this, and the clamourer grew still. It was now midnight, and my task was drawing to a close. I had completed the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th tier. I had finished a portion of the last and the 11th. There remained but a single stone to be fitted and plastered in. I struggled with its weight. I placed it partially in its destined position, but now there came out of the niche a low laugh that erected the hairs upon my head. It was succeeded by a sad voice, which I had difficulty in recognizing as that of the noble Fortunato. The voice said,
"A very good joke, indeed. An excellent jest. We will have many a rich laugh about it at the palazzo. Over our wine."
"The Amontillado," I said.
"Yes, the Amontillado. But is it not getting late? Will not they be awaiting us at the palazzo? The Lady Fortunato and the rest? Let us be gone."
"Yes," I said. "Let us be gone."
"For the love of God, Montressa."
"Yes," I said. "For the love of God." But to these words I hearkened in vain for a reply. I grew impatient. I called aloud. "Fortunato?" No answer. I called again. "Fortunato?" No answer still. I thrust a torch through the remaining aperture and let it fall within. There came forth in return only a jingling of the bells. My heart grew sick on account of the dampness of the catacombs. I hastened to make an end of my labour. I forced the last stone into its position. I plastered it up. Against the new masonry, I re-erected the old rampart of bones. For the half of a century, no mortal has disturbed them. In pace requiescat.
Well, thank you, Edgar Allan Poe, for your story. I think we chose a good one there to read. It had a few mentions of the niche. So I feel like that was a bit of a promotion for our new Patreon.
100%. You know that's what he was all about.
It was ahead of his time.
Guys, just come step into our niche. Like, we promise not to, like, trap you in there and kill you.
Pinky swear. So we hope you enjoyed that reading. Just a little taste of Amontillado, and hopefully that encourages you to sample the whole cask.
And if you did enjoy it, then I would encourage you to get yourself down to the Edgar Allan Poe Museum. We have a little message from Chris. So Chris, as we mentioned earlier, is the curator of the Edgar Allan Poe Museum, who was so generous with his time as to give us this wonderful list. And we've got a little message from Chris now.
Let's play it.
Edgar Allan Poe has spread his dark shadow across the globe. But if you'd like to find out the origins of the master of madness, melancholy, murder, and the macabre, you'll have to come to Richmond, Virginia to see the Poe Museum, the world's finest collection of Edgar Allan Poe's things. We have everything from the socks from his feet to the hair in his head. A piece of his coffin. It's the closest thing you'll get to meeting Edgar Allan Poe in the flesh. Find out more at poemuseum.org.
So thanks again, Chris. And if any of our listeners are anywhere near Richmond, Virginia, the East Coast of the US, check it out.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool. I was on the website. They do different events and stuff. I'm a bit jelly, actually. I'd love to visit.
It's a long way.
I mean, you can have a little looky-loo at a bit of coffin. That's just a normal thing to do.
A bit of his coffin.
Yeah.
It's a story in itself, isn't it?
And just some of his teeth in a jar. It's totally normal. It's fine.
It's a place I wouldn't want to get drunk at. Let's put it that way.
They have, like, drinks.
Do they?
They do. That sounds fun.
Just don't go too deep into the catacombs. So thank you, Chris, and thank you, Edgar Allan Poe. But now it's my turn to recommend something to you. I'm a bit out of practice. It's been quite a while since.
It's been a long time.
The last thing I recommended was Adolescence.
Oh, wow.
It's like a year ago.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Oh, God. What have you been brewing up since then?
Yeah. Actually, I had a book that is on my to-rec list, but I don't want to read a book.
Okay.
And so it was kind of a both of us read type of thing, but I think we need a little bit of a break and we need a bit of fun.
Okay.
I'm going to recommend you a TV show that I enjoyed. I haven't watched it for a while, so I'll watch it again with you.
Okay.
On a past episode, we spoke about recommendations and TV shows. Can't remember which one it was, and someone, maybe more than one person, actually recommended this TV show. And I remember you hadn't seen it at the time, so I'm hoping you still haven't seen it, and maybe I can recommend it to you now.
I never watch anything, so...
Because I think you'd like it.
Okay.
And the show is Fleabag.
Okay, no, I haven't.
Okay.
My mum's mentioned Fleabag, actually. Are they Irish? Or am I getting that confused with something else?
No, I don't think so. It's a show that is based on, I believe, a stage show by Phoebe Waller-Bridge and adapted for a TV series. And the first season was great. And then she came back for like the second season, which was even greater. And I think you'll actually love it so much.
Oh. So you're purposely recommending me something I'm going to enjoy. That's very out of character.
Exactly. It's a bit unusual for me. So Fleabag, there's 2 seasons, but they're only like UK seasons, so 6 episodes each. And I think they're like 30-minute episodes, so it's not a huge commitment, and I think you'll love it.
All right.
I'm overhyping it now. Now I'm like setting you up for failure.
You are, because you know I've got ODD.
So we'll talk about that in about 9 months' time, apparently. I think we'll try and get back into a regular rhythm, regular routine.
Inverted commas,
yeah,
for sure. I mean, I'm excited. That sounds really good, but now you've reminded me that I should ask. Like, we've just been talking about Poe, and I recommended that to you. Like, what's your overarching vibe? Were you happy? Were you like, how'd you feel about that recommendation?
True, we didn't do the stars summary. We should have done how many stars do I give Poe? 3 stars. It was good. Look, we talk about Poe like literally all the time. Literally every single episode we harp on about Poe, and it's been a real oversight on our part not to have spoken about him before. So it's been great reading his stories and really kind of connecting with the person who brought us the single effect that we so thoroughly love to talk about. I think going forward, when I do think about single effect, I will think actually of Poe's writing and not just his words, because these stories really do exemplify what is meant by single effect, and they're fun stories as well. So I'm glad I read them and kind of had this opportunity to go back to the source. So 5 ravens.
Wow, 5. Okay. All right. Well, I'm glad you loved it.
So before we wrap up, just a reminder about our Patreon. If you head on down, click the link in the episode notes and check that out if you are interested. What else is coming up? What else have we got on?
I've got a bunch of workshops coming up, which I'm really excited about. So there's different ones. There are different durations, a couple of hours, full day, like whatever it might be. You can find all of the details of those on, we've got a new sort of what's on page on our website.
We do.
So dates, times, locations, and of course the pricing for each of those as well from each of those various organizations. But I'm really excited. It's always a really lively time. I feel like it's quite inspirational for me as well. We're all just talking about what we're passionate about, learning some new tips and tricks, and it's suitable for anyone. It doesn't matter if you're new to flash fiction or if you've been doing it a long time. I think the experience of working through those ideas seems to have, you know, an effect on everyone. So I'm really, really looking forward to that, and I hope some of you will be able to join me. I do, as we established early in this episode, love to meet my friends in real life. So hopefully we get that opportunity.
And I've sat in on one of your courses as well, and it's a lot of fun for everyone involved.
Yeah, I think it's a good vibe. It's always a good time. I think just any time you're switching off from the day-to-day and delving into your creativity is always just a really refreshing experience.
And we'll be back soon with more flash fiction content and more regular episodes, all the stuff that you love. But until then, ride on.
Right on.
Thank you for listening to Not Quite Right. If you'd like to reach us via email or follow us on social media, you can find all the links on our website, notquiterightpodcast.com. That's WRITE. And if you enjoyed the show, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcasting app.
Something doesn't seem quite right.
So you asked about the Allan thing before, about Edgar Allan Poe, and you're like, as if you'd pick the name Allan, what a fuckwit. Anyway, that's his adoptive parents' name. So when he was like 2, his parents fucked off. Like, I think his mum died and his dad abandoned her. They were artistes, actors, I think. And his dad abandoned the mum, and then the mum passed away, and then an adoptive family took him in. And so he took their surname, all right, which was Allan.
All right.
So put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Sorry, I didn't mean to offend you.
You did. You've got popcorn on your shoulder, so I don't know. I can't take you seriously. It's gone now. It's like having a chip on your shoulder, but it's popcorn. I don't know what that says about you.
Yeah, is that popcorn on your shoulder? Or
in depth, about 4 feet. In width, 3. In height, 6 or 7.
Ahead of his time, Poe was.
The wine sparkled in his eyes and the bells jingled. What kind of fuckwit is walking around with a jingly bell hat?
What he's wearing. He's wearing like a fucking tights and bells, and he's like,
freaking shit hot. He's such a dickhead.
Imagine people still like men just got about in bells.
I mean, it's a carnival, but like, you fucking take the hat off, mate. I'm totally on this guy. So, if for no other reason than the hat. He repeated the movement, a grotesque one. Is he doing the jerk-off motion? Like, what is he doing? He's like, he threw the bottle upwards with a gesticulation I did not understand. I looked at him.
Threw the bottle up. Do not comprehend. You not, doth thee not pick up what I put down. We are in the catacombs, are we not? What takes place in the catacombs stays. This tale of revenge is taking an unexpected turn.
As per usual.
I would be surprised were it not the 5th time this was happening.